Presented by MTN Business in association with Forbes Women Africa.
I started as a rover and then victory was mine. I thought the race was over, but they just keep moving the line. They cheered at my persistence, but prayed for my decline. The path of least resistance led to Hollywood.
Marking International Women's Day, Forbes Women Africa, in association with MTN Business, launched the inaugural 2016 Leading Women's Summit in Sandton last week. High-powered women stepped out to network and be inspired by world-class speakers and panelists. The theme for the day was the rise of the Millennial.
The magazine itself is about 2.5 years old, and this was high time that we actually got together women in a room and powerhouses, really. But summits are all about building offline communities and online communities thereafter. And what we did with this summit is not just to celebrate International Women's Day, but to theme it, the rise of the millennial, because it was a story waiting to be told. I don't think there have been very many summits in Africa, especially, that's been themed around the millennials. And as I mentioned in my speech, there was a PwC report last year that said that by the year 2020, 25% of the world's workforce will be the female millennial. And I think that's a significant number. And it's just 4 years from now. That's why these conversations are very, very important.
MTN Business has operations in Africa and the Middle East. And if you look at International Women's Day, International Women's Day touches all those operations that we operate in. So it was a natural fit for us when we were approached by Forbes Women's Africa to actually be part of the Leading Women Summit, because I think there is a need to have a platform where these leading women can have conversation, where they will debate and have discourse around what is challenging them as women in corporate and also in government.
When it comes to their careers and the workplace, millennial women are a new breed. The majority are known for being highly ambitious, educated, optimistic, dedicated, and are attempting to thrive in a well-rounded lifestyle. These reasons alone make female millennials powerful players. What can female millennials learn from previous generations?
I would say that for the people in business, for the millennials to please be focusing on what it is that they want to do in contributing to their businesses. Whether it is that you decide that you're going to first gain experience in the corporate sector, and when you gain experience, it's not about the number of years that you spend there. It is about the amount of work that you're doing there. So if you're going to be in an organization for 5 years, make sure that you're going to make yourself get enough experience for more than that 5 years, So that means that you need to be willing to put in the hours, and be willing to do that. Honestly, and I say this, when I look at myself, you need to be willing to go through a period where you tell yourself that it's not about the money that they pay me, it's about what I can get out of it. And so put in the time. It's about growing yourself and gaining as much knowledge as you possibly can. So create that, that experience. Then once you have that, I would say, then have a business plan. If you intend to become an entrepreneur, have a business plan and make sure that you speak to relevant people in making sure that you have a strong business plan. And once you do that, then go and start speaking to financiers. And financiers are not just banks. We have financiers, all around the world.
In December 2013, Zelda Lachransi, Nelson Mandela's trusted assistant, presented philanthropist and arts angel Carolyn Steyn with a challenge to knit 67 blankets.
With all the traction that we've had from thousands of South Africans and people around the world, I'm so proud to say that we have reached so many milestones in the short period of time. It's really been 2 years. So in short, we've partnered with the Nelson Mandela Foundation, which has given us huge gravitas, and they hold my hand. We won Campaign of the Year, At the South African of the Year Awards, after just 9 months, we beat the likes of Coca-Cola, Kellogg's, KFC, and Knorr. I said to my husband at the time, can you believe that we've been nominated against these giant corporates with giant bank accounts? We trade in wool. He said, my baby, you trade in good wool. So we use that all the time now. We smashed the Guinness Book of Records on April 21 last year. If you remember that sea of color around the statue of Madiba, he was smiling down that day. As far as the eye could see in every direction, blankets made with our own 2 hands. Madiba did say, it is now in your hands, and we are listening to him with each and every stitch that we make.
Millennials are the largest and most diverse generation that the world has ever seen. Plain and simple, nearly every marketer today is making Generation Y a priority, or at least working to understand what drives and delights this instrumental group.
Understand one thing about this generation, and this will help you almost to understand everything about them. If you can stand in their shoes and understand that they see the world, it's all about me. So I am the center of my universe, and everything, they're looking for the universe to conspire with them. You've got to fit in with me. So when I'm coming to work at a company, I'm looking to use this company as the best projection of my hopes and dreams. My biggest dream that I want as a millennial is I want to be great and I want to leave a legacy. That's the biggest dream. We've summed it up. We've interviewed thousands and thousands of millennials around the country. And really what they want to be great and leave a legacy, their biggest fear is that they will let themselves down.
One of the major research points that's come up recently is that a massive 30% of millennials want to work for companies and be involved with brands that give back, that have that humanitarian aspect, that want to knit 67 blankets. They are intensely loyal if they feel they are given what they want. Like Ronan said, me. If they get what they want, they will be loyal to a fault.
Let's bring influence and loyalty into the picture, Michelle. I'm told that millennials, we are loyalty light. And we're pretty cool with one fling here and another fling there with brands, right? Is this an accurate reflection of this group?
I think it can be that way, but I think once a brand really wins over a millennial, then they will be loyal to a fault. They will really buy into the brand. They will, like with example of Apple, they will get every single new phone that comes on the market, whether they need one or not. They will be in that queue, first in line.
What do millennials want when they come to work?
Understand this. The thought of having one job for life is probably similar to having a lifetime sentence in a jail. Let's get this straight.
67 blankets.
Exactly. So what I tell all the employers out there is they're not looking to get in for long-term commitment. And at their phase in their life, long-term commitment could be 2 to 3 years. And whether it's brands or whether it's the workplace, their intention is not to look for long-term commitment, but if you stay relevant to them and if you stay authentic and you keep on engaging and you stay close, one of the unintended consequences could be commitment. But it's certainly not something they seek out to be. And this is what's really interesting, what we're finding, especially in this age of social media, is what you have to bear in mind with your younger workforce is that they get so much affirmation and validation through social media so quickly. So if I put something on Instagram before I leave for the office, I get to the office half an hour later, I've got 38 likes and I've got all these kind of things that are happening. A lot of the time, they expect their career to progress at the same rate. They're also very needy. They expect the same validation that they get from their friends and followers. They want their managers to be as present.
Girl Code is an initiative aimed at teaching high school students programming and coding. After attending a hackathon, Jeanette Tew realized that in the world of cyberspace, there was still room for some girl power.
I made a decision last year that I wanted to make a difference. The millennial in me wanted to help. She wanted to empower. Girl Code and the Cortex Hub, although completely different in what they do, they both have one thing at their core. They offer the opportunity to help people through technology. Let me take a step back. What is Girl Code? What is the Cortex Hub? And what has it got to do with me? I am the Director of Marketing at the Cortex Hub. We are a startup incubator and accelerator that aims at helping young individuals start technology-based businesses.
What's trending for Generation Y? Alexander Leibner talks to 3 of Forbes Women Africa's cover stars about what drives millennial businesswomen.
I was inspired by wanting to create change, but do it rapidly. So wanting to create change at my own pace. I had an idea initially, and I knew that it was an idea that I could build along with my co-founder, who's built the technical side of our business. And I had worked in environments before where I wanted to create change, I wanted to do something that I thought was good, but I was held back by my environment, so I always felt constrained. And starting my own business meant that I had a vision and I had an idea and I could do it myself, and I would be master of my own destiny, and I would manage how quickly or how slowly that idea became a reality.
For me, what set me on this path was the ability to recognize my purpose at a very young age, in that I would not just get involved in something for the sake of money, but I would rather do something that would impact lives, and lives on a large scale. So for me, Rataga, that's what it was founded on. And once that happened, I think it was just almost like if I was set on fire, I had to inspire other people within my team or clients that would also, believe in what we're doing and see it as a necessity, not for the future, but for right now.
We're a young company. We all wake up in the morning excited about our purpose. Last year, we planted over 285 school and community gardens and positively impacted food security in 300,000 households. That's why. We're all focused on this common good of, as long as X amount of people are now growing vegetables at the end of this year, I don't mind how that time structure works. So if you feel that you can take some time off now and go and do X, Y, and Z because you need to do it as a person to refill yourself, so that you come back as a stronger person within the team, and we will get to our goal at the end of the day and make sure that those people have access to food, I'm happy.
When we come back after the break, mindfulness, disrupting and revolutionizing industries, and how millennials are reshaping the workforce. Millennials find it easy to extol the virtues of the web, mobile devices, and social media. Yet as our hours and days are filled with more and more time-saving devices, many of us seem to have less and less time. What is being lost in the process? As Gandhi reminds us, there is more to life than increasing its speed.
I'd been asked to become the deputy principal of a large high school in Botswana. And the school had been going through a lot of difficult times. The staff were incredibly unhappy. They'd actually kicked out 3 headmasters in 3 years. So the enrollment was going down, the kids were unhappy, there were discipline issues. And I came into the job much younger than most of my colleagues. So there was definitely resentment there that I'd been approached and offered the position. It was a challenging time because my instinctive wish is to care for people. And yet I was in the position where I had to discipline, where I had to clamp down on divisive and unskillful behavior. So I felt a real internal tug, a sense of being torn between who I felt I was and the role that I had to play. I felt this resentment from others, I felt their projection and their dissatisfaction with who I was. And I knew I was really just doing the very best I could. But what came to me was that we can't change anybody else. but we can find inner strength. We can explore the way we experience the world around us.
The Millennial Disruption Index set out to identify the industries most likely to be transformed by millennials, and banking is at the highest risk of disruption. Millennials like driving sharing services like Airbnb, Uber, and Zappa.
First off, this is what I always like to do. How many people in the room use Uber? Okay, great. For those of you that don't, come find me afterwards. So yeah, we're doing incredibly well. Numbers that we released quite recently was in 2014, we did 1 million trips through the platform, and 2015 in the first half, 2 million. So yeah, growth is absolutely amazing.
The QR code went out of fashion very quickly because it was initially used as a way of marketing. People would scan a QR code and it would generally take them to a mobile site, which actually wasn't mobile optimized, and it ended up being more of an effort to download a QR code scanner, scan a QR code, and see what it bought you. But now with Zappa, we've integrated it into a payment system. So you literally open the app on your phone, scan the code on your bill, and away you can go.
Arshel Bernard is a Liberian fashion designer and entrepreneur. She successfully raised more than $40,000 on Kickstarter for her company's growth. From dreaming of becoming Africa's Oprah, she now helps survivors of the Ebola pandemic to rebuild their lives through fashion, one stitch at a time.
So exciting to find your voice. I feel like I was pushed into my passion. And, you know, no matter what you believe you want to do with your life, your true purpose will always find you. And that's why it's so thrilling to be a millennial at this time in Africa. You know, I've had this boutique now for 3 years. All of our tailors have been men. I'm a woman making women's wear. Where are the women who can help me do this? So when we decided we need more hands on deck in order to grow and reach global domination like we would like, I was like, okay, this is our opportunity. Let's train women. Let's bring women into the mix. And in Liberia, you see a lot of women who don't have a formal skill, okay? They sell goods, they take care of the children, they clean the house, but you don't see a lot of skilled women. So I'm excited to develop a generation of skilled women. I want for our factory to be as large as anything that you find in Asia, and with the quality that you know you can trust, but also serving women who you know $1 is going to go very far in feeding them and teaching their children.
A PwC report observes that organizations the world over are currently facing the challenges that come with vast numbers of millennial talent entering and reshaping the workforce.
Theoretically, it's a fantastic idea, but I have found, now I say I'm on the upper band of the millennials because I was born in the early 80s, and I'm hiring from the middle to lower band, and I hire across, what we'd call professional like ourselves who are in this room, so marketing managers and that sort of thing, but I also hire teams that work in a warehouse who refurbish smartphones. So I'm speaking, between those two bands of what we consider like work and professional and that sort of thing. And what I found is that when I started, you're in an environment where you were told, this is what you do, this is how you're going to do it, and you do it. Whereas here I find that it has to be a more consultative process with the younger members of our team, where, we sit down and let's talk about how we'll solve this problem together. I might have my idea and I'd like you to implement it my way, but I found it doesn't always have the best results, because at the end of the day, I want a passionate team. And a key thing with that is they have to feel that they're included.
And another interesting study showed, for example, that there were more similarities between women who had young children, who might be 25 and 45, in the way that they wanted to be treated and the value propositions that they wanted, than women who are all of a particular age. So my argument would be it's time to stop taking a one-size-fits-all towards our workplaces and to start really understanding what people value.
She's a black female comedian, and she is also on the forefront of the burgeoning Christian comedy community. What would she do if she had 10 minutes to change the world?
I think we should celebrate women more often, especially young women, because it's nice to be independent. But as much as I love being independent and empowered, I sometimes don't like it. Understand, I'm 26, I just got a job and I had to fill up my tank for 500 Rand. 500 Rand, ma'am, do you know how much hair I can get with 500 Rand? I could be flipping my hair right now.
According to the American Psychological Association's annual Stress in America survey, no generation feels the effects of stress more than millennials. Across generations, concerns about money and finances are the biggest cause of stress. How can Generation Y better cope with stress?
Have you heard of the term FOMO, the fear of missing out? So this is why we are constantly checking our phones to see what's going on. It causes undue stress and anxiety. And then there's this idea that we have to keep up with the latest technology all the time. So we end up spending money and getting ourselves into debt that is unnecessary. We also have this constant need for instant gratification, and that comes at a price. The millennials are forever chasing that next shiny object. It's called the shiny object syndrome. What happens is people start to disconnect from families, from relationships, even within communities. We tend to withdraw inside because we are so busy trying to find what's happening on the external and look for the approval on the external that we have lost contact with ourselves because of our reliance on technology.
In a survey conducted on behalf of Merrill Lynch's private banking and investment group, millennials don't come across as entitled, disengaged from the real world, or enthralled by instant gratification, and they aren't upending their parents' approach to investing. Is there a disconnect between perception and reality? And how do millennials earn their money and spend it?
Millennials really started working during the GFC 2008-2009, and what they saw when they started working was trillions of dollars being wiped off the stock exchange, a lot of that coming out of the pension fund money that belonged really to their parents, even to some of them. So it does make them more cautious.
How do we actually try and get a lot more millennials to actively participate in the economy? How do we create opportunities for them? But then also, how do we actually empower them to create opportunities for themselves? Because the economy is not creating jobs. If we empower them to be a lot more entrepreneurial at a very young age, because of the challenges that they've seen, because they are more conscious about the environment, they are a lot more agile to come up with solutions, and they can then use those solutions to serve themselves well, while changing the environment.
Unlike the previous generations, they actually studied finance. Yes. So you have this generation of people who are professionals and studied finance and law. And I think the previous generation were a lot more, tended to favor more social sciences rather than, engineering and mathematically strong, subjects. And unfortunately, you graduate and suddenly you can't find a job, and you have a master's in finance and you can't find a job. You don't qualify to buy a car. You don't qualify to buy a house. They're just caught in in a cycle of bad news and I guess what we had before, stressful environment, and with so much potential.
It's at these summits that the most unlikely partnerships and collaborations also take place, and that's what you take away from it. Simply because women by nature, as I mentioned, they're ethical, they're collaborative, they're creative, they're innovative, and they're better at change management. So when you bring together a room full of powerful women who are prominent, who are influential and inspirational in their own way, and who have excellent stories to relate of their own, I think the result is magic.
There have been similar events for women empowerment where you get to the event and there's a panelist, there's different speakers, but with this one, it's a topic that I relate to so much. It's funny how when you look at most of the women that got up to speak about their businesses, they started succeeding when they started giving back. When they realized that, listen, there's something wrong in the community, that's how their businesses started.
I think there is a fight ahead, especially in terms of ensuring that there's gender parity. I think we, as women, we still need to kind of prepare the environment and the landscape for the millennials, if I have to put it that way, and also for our children, because the gender parity is not where it should be, and we still need to play a role in actually harnessing it and using our nurturing way to ensure that we actually position the women in their rightful place.
Presented by MTN Business in association with Forbes Women Africa.